Hello. Thank you for visiting the Truth About Cheating channel. Don't forget to subscribe. Monica screamed in fright when she saw me and immediately covered her naked body with a blanket. Denny also turned around. His eyes opened wide, his hands hurriedly gathering clothes scattered all over the bedroom, but a vase flying past his head did not allow him to do that. The man in his underwear jumped out of the open window and ran to his car. My wooden bat flew after him and hit the headlight, breaking it. The car drove quickly away from my yard, disappearing among the narrow streets. All this happened within 1 minute. Yes, you understood correctly. I just caught my wife cheating. In our house, in our bedroom, in our bed. And I just came home to change clothes because I got very dirty at work. My new colleague, a young and cute girl, was extremely clumsy. She was carrying several cups of coffee in her hands and tripped over her own foot. The hot drinks spilled on me, smearing my shirt and pants. My boss saw this and was an understanding woman, so she offered me to go home and change my clothes. Under Monica's plaintive crying and excuses, I went to the closet and started changing. I deliberately did not react to her words. It seemed to me that if I talked to her, all the anger inside me would explode. I could do something illegal and violent towards her. It takes all the willpower to maintain outward calmness. The maximum I could do was tell her to pack up and leave before I returned from work. I left the house, got into the car, and drove to work. Apparently, my condition showed that something had happened because my colleagues began asking about my health. They said I looked like I had just returned from a war. Well, it wasn't far from the truth. There really was a real war going on inside me. Until the end of the workday, I just sat in front of the computer monitor, not reacting to what was happening around. All I wanted was to go to a bar and get drunk with my best friend. That's exactly what I did. Immediately after work, I called my friend and asked him to meet at a bar near my house. Probably my tone made it clear that something was wrong, because he agreed to come over soon without further questions. Now I vaguely remember that evening. We drank a lot of whiskey and beer, talked about my divorce from Monica. My best friend helped me catch a taxi and walked me to the doors of my house. Now this house did not look like a cozy and homely shelter. It became too quiet and empty. There were only my shoes in the hallway. The bedroom looked neat, as if nothing had happened there. The closets, chests of drawers, bathroom, even the kitchen were empty. Monica really took absolutely all her stuff. Even her potted plants were gone somewhere. It felt like someone had just moved into this house and hadn't finished settling in yet. I couldn't stay calm in the bedroom. Now it's the most hated, disgusting room for me, so I was sleeping on the couch in the living room. In the morning, my head was hurting terribly. It seemed it was about to split into pieces from the hellish pulsating pain. I peeled my eyes open with difficulty and looked around. The sunlight coming through the undrawn curtains hurt my eyes. I sat on the couch, and the room started spinning. Nausea rose in my throat. I barely managed to run to the bathroom, where I threw up the remnants of yesterday's drinking. The hangover weighed on me like a truck. My head was buzzing, my mouth was dry, and my stomach cramped. I forced myself with difficulty to take a shower, brush my teeth, shave, and get dressed. Every movement was incredibly hard for me. Finally, I returned to the living room and collapsed on the couch. I needed to get ready for work, but the thought of it alone made everything go dark before my eyes. I couldn't imagine functioning in this state. I lazily reached for the phone to call my boss and warn her I wouldn't come in today. However, my gaze fell on Monica's photo on the nightstand. The memories of yesterday hit me hard. Hatred and disappointment overwhelmed me with new force. I barely suppressed those emotions. The main thing now is to survive this hellish workday. I'll see what happens next. Despite the bad hangover, I decided to go to work. In the empty house full of memories of Monica, I felt even worse, so I wanted to switch my attention to other tasks and just change the scenery. My colleagues immediately noticed my detached state. They joked that apparently I overindulged with alcohol last night. I couldn't take it anymore and told them the truth, how I caught Monica with her lover, how he jumped out the window, and how my wife left the house. My colleagues were horrified and involuntarily cursed my wife. Well, indeed, my situation could only be described with obscene language. They expressed sincere sympathy and support. I was touched by their compassion. At least here I was understood and not judged. It gave me the strength to survive the rest of the workday, even though I could barely think straight and couldn't focus on simple tasks because of the hangover. After work, that same clumsy girl offered me to have coffee and talk a little. She asked what I was planning to do now. I firmly decided to divorce Monica. This marriage no longer made any sense to me. In the next few days, I was going to go to a lawyer's consultation to learn about the legal details of divorce and protect my rights as best I could. I was also very worried about our children with Monica. They are only 5 and 7 years old. It will be hard for them to endure their parents' divorce. I wanted to give them as much attention as possible. Take them to parks, movies, zoos. In short, do everything to make them feel needed and loved during this difficult time. Besides, in case of a divorce, of course I wanted to fight for custody of the children. I had a feeling that Monica wouldn't be able to properly take care of them after finding a lover. I didn't want the children to grow up in a dysfunctional environment. Their safety and comfort was my top priority. Overall, despite the shock and pain of betrayal, I was determined. The main thing is to go through the divorce with dignity and minimize losses for the children, and life will get better in time. After talking to my colleague, I decided to call my parents. Our children were staying with them on vacation. I bluntly announced that I caught Monica cheating and was planning a divorce. My parents were shocked. They had no idea there were problems in our relationship. Despite the shock, they promised to take care of the grandchildren for as long as needed. "Don't worry, son," my mom said. "Leave the kids with us for as long as you need. You're going through tough times right now, and your dad and I will be happy to spend more time with our grandchildren. You know how much we love them." My dad also expressed support. What an atrocity on Monica's part. I would have never thought so. But you're doing the right thing getting divorced. And don't worry about the kids, they'll be fine with us. I felt relieved. At least I didn't have to worry about the kids for now. Meanwhile, I could focus on the divorce proceedings and restoring my mental balance after these events. Incidentally, this difficult day was the first time I even looked at my phone. After calling my parents, I saw dozens of missed calls and text messages from my wife. Monica was probably trying to justify herself, begging for forgiveness or cursing in response. But I didn't care. I didn't even read those messages, deleted everything without looking. Instead, I asked my acquaintances if they had contacts of a good divorce lawyer. One friend gave me the number of an excellent specialist his sister went to. I immediately called that lawyer. Luckily, he happened to be available the next day. We agreed to meet and discuss everything. I felt confident that this experienced attorney would help me properly handle the divorce and defend my interests. However, the lawyer cooled my ardor. It turned out I had no right to kick Monica out of our common home. That was considered illegal eviction of a spouse, and she could easily sue me for that. Moreover, Monica was fully entitled to return home at any time and demand that I continue living with her in marriage until the official divorce. In the current situation, the law was clearly on her side. If she does sue me, it would greatly complicate the whole divorce process and reduce my chances of getting custody of the children in the future. I was horrified by this news. So I'm absolutely powerless to do anything against Monica. I'll have to endure her presence in my own home for a long time, and also risk losing my children because of her potential lawsuit. It felt like a nightmare. All my determination vanished in an instant. In your situation, it's very likely that Monica will get custody and you'll pay alimony. Our objective now is to minimize your losses after the divorce, said the lawyer. On the one hand, now I knew my legal prospects and options regarding the divorce. That was useful to understand further steps. The lawyer competently answered all my questions. On the other hand, some things burdened and scared me, especially the fact that Monica could return home at any moment, and I wouldn't be able to do anything about it, or that she could significantly complicate me getting custody of the children. I felt relieved that I now knew all the nuances of the divorce process, but at the same time, I felt anxious and annoyed by my own helplessness. I was also worried about the future fate of the children. This mixture of conflicting emotions made me feel on edge one minute and slightly calmer the next. I walked down the street, absorbed in my thoughts and worries. I had difficult decisions to make about how to proceed in such an uncertain situation. Over the next few days, I tried to keep it together and not lose my mind over the uncertainty. Monica kept calling me, but I stubbornly didn't pick up. At the same time, every day I expected her to show up at the door with suitcases any minute. On Friday, I picked the kids up from my parents to spend the weekend with them. On Saturday, we went together to our favorite pizzeria and played bowling. The children were delighted. We had a great time. For a moment, it even seemed to me that everything was fine. Just a dad with his kids, spending a carefree day. However, closer to evening, when the kids and I were watching a cartoon before bed, the doorbell suddenly rang unexpectedly. I froze, realizing it was Monica. The kids happily screamed, "Mom came," and rushed to meet her. She stood at the door with a huge suitcase and several bags. The guilty smile on her face said it all. "Hi, can I come in? After all, this is still my house too." The perfect day collapsed in an instant. When the children went to their rooms and fell asleep, Monica tried to talk to me. But I nipped all her attempts in the bud. I absolutely didn't want to talk about anything. All I said coldly was, "I need to go to bed. I have work tomorrow." After which I started preparing my sleeping place on the couch in the living room. In the morning, I woke up to the noise in the kitchen. Monica was making breakfast for the whole family as if nothing had happened. When I entered the room, she smiled cordially. "Good morning. I made pancakes, your favorite. The kids already ate and went to get ready for school. Sit down, let's have breakfast." She was clearly hoping with such homemaking gestures to establish contact and talk to me. But I had absolutely no appetite. I silently poured myself some coffee, took a sip, and put the cup in the sink. "I have to get to work," I grumbled, heading for the exit. Monica's whole family breakfast just disgusted me. I wasn't ready to talk to her right now. Maybe sometime later. That evening when I returned from work, my wife approached me again. Her eyes were red from crying. "Listen, I know you don't want to talk to me right now, but sooner or later we'll have to do it," she sobbed before continuing. "I didn't mean to betray you. It's just that night we had a little too much to drink with colleagues after work, and Denny gave me a ride home, and somehow it just happened. I swear it was only once. I regret it." Let's try to preserve the family for the sake of the children. However, her excuses only made me angrier. Impaired judgment, indeed. More like she just decided to misbehave at my expense. I don't know what happened with you and how many times, I replied coldly. But either way, I'm filing for divorce. Our relationship is over. And now excuse me, I really need to rest after a working day. I turned to go to the bathroom and take a shower. I had no more desire to listen to her pathetic excuses. The days before the divorce hearing were pure hell for me. I went to work like a zombie, operating on autopilot. My boss even offered me a paid leave so I could deal with family issues, but I refused. Because sitting at home would be even worse than just numbly functioning at work. That's where I least wanted to be. The only reason I came home was because of the kids. It was worth enduring for their sake. As for Monica, she was clearly trying to appease me before the divorce. She cooked my favorite dishes, kept the house spotless, spoke to me gently, tried not to bother me unnecessarily. A couple times she even tried to seduce me physically, but her reconciliation attempts only angered me more. I didn't want anything from her except for this nightmare called divorced to end as soon as possible. Of course, the kids noticed that lately their parents were acting strange. I was gloomy and pensive, constantly distracted from all conversations. Monica was also not at all like herself, quiet and sad. The children were worried. They didn't understand what was going on with Mom and Dad. One day my son asked me, "Dad, has something happened between you and Mom? You argue all the time. My sister and I are concerned." I decided to have an honest talk with the kids and explain the situation in terms they could understand. I gently informed them that their mom and I no longer love each other like we used to, and that soon we will stop being husband and wife, meaning we'll get a divorce. They were upset by this news, but I assured them that we will both continue to love them and spend time with them, just living separately now. I promised they could always count on my support and care, no matter what. This reassured the kids a little. Monica kept desperately trying to regain my affection. She kept apologizing, begging me to give her a chance to earn back my trust. But I only felt irritated. It seemed she didn't want to accept reality. Our relationship was over. I decided to take an indirect approach to make her understand. "All right," I said. "If you really regret it and want to regain my trust, you'll have to do something. First, take a lie detector test to answer all my questions honestly. Second, get tested for sexually transmitted infections to rule out any contagion. If the results come back negative, I may be able to forgive you, but not before." I understood these conditions would sound humiliating to her. I wasn't actually interested in the lie detector or test results. But I needed Monica to realize the gravity of the situation and the consequences of her actions, and to see just how much she had destroyed my trust in her with her betrayal. Maybe then she would finally back off and stop clinging to our dead relationship. To my surprise, my wife agreed to these terms. She kept delaying the lie detector, apparently fearing uncomfortable questions. But she immediately got tested for infections, being absolutely confident of a negative result. However, an unpleasant surprise awaited her. A few days later, the results showed that Monica had tested positive for HIV. I was shocked by the news. In a panic, I immediately got tested too. Those were the most stressful days of my life as I awaited results. Thankfully, my indicators came back clean. Despite my wife's infidelity, I had avoided infection. But I now had the opportunity for a special revenge I just had to take advantage of. I knew Denny was Monica's colleague and worked with her in the same office. I understood what a commotion it would cause if it turned out colleagues were having intimate relations and transmitting a dangerous infection to each other. Moreover, there was a risk Monica and Denny had slept not only with each other, but with other subordinates too. Getting them fired and subsequently disgraced would be the perfect revenge. After receiving Monica's test results, I scheduled a meeting with the head of the company where my wife worked, explaining beforehand to his secretary the urgency of the matter. At the meeting, I relayed the situation. Monica had cheated on me with her colleague Denny, possibly right in the office, violating corporate ethics. As a result, she had contracted HIV. I demanded they immediately fire her and Denny, since their irresponsible behavior could jeopardize the health of all other employees. I reminded the manager that by law, the employer bears responsibility for the health and safety of employees. I described the scale of damage if these two had infected others. In this case, the employer had legal grounds to terminate my wife and her lover to ensure the safety of remaining staff and visitors. The gravity of it quickly dawned on the manager. He promised to investigate and take necessary action within his authority and current legislation. After such news, he would have no choice but to fire Monica and Denny and demand all employees undergo mandatory HIV testing. When Monica found out about her dismissal, she furiously attacked me. "It was you who lied to them, wasn't it? You accused me of things that never happened. In reality, you were the one cheating on me all these years, and you infected me with HIV, but now you're framing me as the guilty one," she yelled. I just bitterly smirked at these delusional accusations. Of course, it was just a desperate attempt at manipulation on her part. After all, according to my tests, I'm completely healthy and could not have transmitted HIV to her in any way. However, the mandatory HIV testing conducted at Monica's company revealed a grim picture. It turned out that in addition to my wife and Denny, several other employees had also tested positive. It looked like there really were some promiscuous sexual relations between colleagues there. And Monica was far from the only victim of that debauched atmosphere. Thanks to this situation, I now had a real chance of getting custody of our children. According to my lawyer, I could now prove that I was a healthy and responsible parent, unlike Monica. I don't have HIV or other diseases. My wife led an immoral and chaotic lifestyle, as evidenced by her workplace behavior, and could be a bad influence on the children. Due to her illness, Monica would not be able to fully care for and provide for the kids, especially now that she was unemployed. I was financially stable and could give the children everything they needed. Thus, if my lawyer and I substantiated all these points in court, I would have every reason to get full custody of the children after the divorce from Monica. Divorce is like entering a new reality where you look at your life with a clean slate. Fortunately, after all that legal tangle, I became a real single parent with 2 kids on my hands. Finally, the nightmare was over. I could breathe freely again. I had to sell our house to divide assets with my ex-wife. I temporarily moved in with my parents with the kids while I save up enough money to buy my own house or decide to take out a loan. My parents' support was invaluable, especially when I went to work. Someone had to look after the children in my absence. Work probably became my island of safety and stability in this sea of change. My boss knew about the difficult family situation, so she sometimes cut me some slack, allowing me to leave work early, for example. I turned down vacation time because I wanted to find a new home or apartment as soon as possible, get settled, so my kids could live comfortably. Gradually, everything was falling into place. Calm was returning to my life, but not to my ex-wife's life. Finding herself in dire straits, Monica sued Denny for deliberate HIV infection. Fear and anxiety staring reality in the face, that's what she was experiencing now. Her life became like a picture torn to pieces. Every trial was like a blow to her emotional state. Under stress and uncertainty about the future, Monica lost weight. Her eyes reflected fatigue and melancholy. I used to be used to seeing joy on her face, but now it was the shadow of a past life. The lack of peace and the storm of emotions took their toll on her appearance. The sparkle in her eyes faded. Her skin lost its freshness. When she came to visit the children, it was clear she wasn't paying proper attention to herself. Her hair was lifeless and her clothes didn't fit as well. She seemed to have forgotten how important it is to take care of herself. My parents, having noticed these changes, expressed concern about her condition. But she seemed to have retreated far into her inner world, consumed by legal troubles and her own struggles. Time was not kind to her, and stress left its mark on her appearance, underlining just how difficult her days had become. Monica did try to see the kids, but most times these were brief visits. I felt she lacked the strength and resources for regular interaction. Talk about how she would care for the children now sounded like empty promises. I understood she was unable to provide the level of care they needed. The lawsuits and her fight for her rights had consumed her so much that she could not fully be present in the children's lives. My parents became a reliable pillar of support for the grandchildren in the absence of maternal care. While I was building our new life, my ex-wife was getting entangled in the maze of lawsuits and her own difficulties. The divorce revealed not only our personal disagreements, but also Monica's inability to fully perform the role of a caring mother. Life after divorce is taking many small steps. First, you dive into a storm of emotions, then gradually come to realism. A new apartment, new routines, new responsibilities. But somewhere along the way you start to realize that you're okay, that you can handle it, that you're not alone in this swim. Family, children, they are your foothold. So I move forward, taking little steps in my new life, rebuilding it anew. That's the story. Share your thoughts in the comments about this situation and the behavior of the spouses. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and be sure to like this video. It will greatly help promote the channel. Take care and have a wonderful day.